Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Wisdom in Bloom podcast. We're going to mix it up a little bit today with a little laughter, a lot of love. We're diving deep into the magic and the celebration of sisterhood. I am Denise. I am one of your hosts, and my other host is my fabulous friend, Miss Kamisha. What's up, Kamisha?
Hi. Hello there, beautiful ladies. We are so excited for this episode because we are talking about sisterhood. We thought this would be the perfect place to start for Wisdom and Bloom because we are building community. So we want to know, what is it? What do we think it is? How do we find it? What have our experiences been with sisterhood? What have our grandmother's experiences been with sisterhood? And then talking about the kind of community and sisterhood that we want to build here.
Yeah, that's right. We're talking about sisterhood and community and the joys and the challenges that is coming, that comes with it. Just like the simple thing of just finding your tribe. Some of us go our whole life before we really figure out what our tribe is. I've had friends who's grown up in the same place forever. I see them on social media and they have a tribe of friends. And then I look at myself because I left the community at such a young age and was military myself, my husband being military. We traveled around the world. So I don't feel like I was ever there to plant myself long enough to build a solid tribe. Now, I built a few friends here or there in silo, but just a full sisterhood of tribe. I believe I missed out on that part because of the travels and the movements so much.
Do you think we can have a tribe of like two or three? Or does a tribe have to be 5 to 10, women?
I think we can have a tribe of two or three. I do. I mean, the Bible talks about it where two or three is gathered in his name. So it's letting you know that there is place, there is purpose for having two or three people as opposed to 5 or 10, which is not nothing wrong with that. But I feel like because I traveled so much and moved around so much, I'm relegated to that two or three. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Where
Uh-huh. Go
where
ahead.
there are people I know that I've known from my community of growing up, and I see them all the time, and they take girls trip, they do this, and it's like 6, 7, 8 of them, and I know them. They were in high school together. So that they just kind of kept that bond, or they found their tribe early and they
Right.
cultivated it and kept it
Yes.
throughout their aging process.
Yes, I think that is what it is. Like, they found their tribe early and they nurtured their tribe, right? They kept in touch with their tribe and they do things that kind of keep the tribe together. Like you said, travel, just gathering together, whether they gather together like monthly or yearly to take trips or what have you. So there's different ways for sure to keep a tribe together. But I thought that I never paid attention, honestly, to like sisterhood until I saw Sex in the City. So, did you ever
Oh,
watch Sex in the
yes, I
City?
did. I did. I
And
did.
so in Sex in the City, you had these women, was it 4 of them or 5 of them? Anyway, there was like this group of women that like met all the time. They lived, close together. They had these weekly like lunches and brunches, dinners or whatever. They were constantly at each other's homes. And I thought, wow, that looks like something I would love to have. But it
Absolutely.
wasn't until I saw that I felt, oh, it would be great to have this sisterhood because I have friends that I've had since high school and
Right.
college, and like they've been here. But like you said, it's like one or two people. It
Mhm.
was never where we all came together consistently in this like tribe kind of sisterhood
That type of
gathering.
atmosphere. Now, for you, it was Sex in the City. For me, it was Waiting to Exhale. So,
Mm.
looking at Waiting to Exhale and looking at the relationships that those women had, even the struggles and the ups and downs that they had, they were still there for each other. Even when some of them would get angry at each other and didn't speak for a while, they eventually found their way back to each other, and they really supported each other. So for me, it was Waiting to Exhale, and I'm looking at that, and I would compare that to my life, and I'm go, wait a minute, at that time, it's like, wait a minute, I never looked at my friendships as a sisterhood, as a solidified relationship. It was almost looking at it as fleeting friendships. Oh, this will be my friend for this period of my life, and then
Right.
I go into my next phase, there may be other people in my life. But when I saw that movie, I thought, wait a minute, they're connected like sisters. May not be
Yes.
blood, but they are connected. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so for me, it was watching Waiting to Exhale and seeing that relationship and how it cultivated throughout that movie.
Ah, yes. I do, of course, remember Waiting to Exhale, but I just remember it for more of the drama, not the sisterhood as much, which is interesting. I guess it just depends on how you are watching it. Because
Mhm.
of course I remember the burning of the
Yeah,
clothes and the car or whatever, and like the fallouts between the women and like the funny situations they had when they were dating and
yeah,
relationships and that kind of thing. But it didn't hit me as a sisterhood for whatever reason. And I think maybe because I had this idea of what a sisterhood for black women was before seeing that. And I
right.
always thought of it as, and I guess we can talk about this more later, like groups of women, like
Mhm.
gathering for community or for, some kind of common like cause, but not
Absolutely.
just like, four or five women, or three or four women as a sisterhood. But
Yeah.
it definitely is a new way of like looking at like what a black female sisterhood can look like.
Yeah, and today's sisterhood may even look different because a lot of times, as I think about, as we if we talk about the past and we look at like my grandmother's sisterhood, because that was another, pin that I can point in time that I first saw some type of sisterhood. When you look at it back there, it was almost like the Black sisterhood was out of necessity. You understand?
Yes, 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 yes.
That they had to rely on each other. They had to be there for each other because it was them against the world with all the racial tension and the things that were against them as being, black females, and they were just so disregarded. And a lot of that still happens today, but you have more of an open door to bring in diversity, inclusivity into your tribe, into your sisterhood now, which has been such a beautiful thing for me to look at my circle, however small it is, and know that I have these different cultures of people who got my back. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But
Yes.
back then, we're talking, when I say back then, we're talking in the 60s and the 70s, where I would watch my grandmother. She had a women's club.
Mm.
There- And I saw this throughout my life where this women's club would meet once a month, or it was either once or twice a month at each other's home. So each time they would meet, they would choose which home that they're going to meet in.
Mm.
And they would bring dishes to that home. So the host would cook, and then the ladies would bring a dish as well. And that's what I used to love, because I love food. And ladies, we talk about ladies in the South, girl, and they was cooking up a storm. And they would meet and they would dress up. So they're just going to each
Ooh.
other's house, but they would dress up. Like I
We should
remember,
do this. I love
yes.
this.
And I remember my grandmother, one time they dressed up in, and they would have a theme. And one time they dressed up in ball gowns. I can remember specifically looking up as a child, as a little kid, looking up at my grandmother, thinking she was the most beautiful. Like she looked like an angel. She had on a lime green and sequence gown, and it was all the way down to the floor, and it had a split on the side, and the split was adorned with little sequins and diamonds. And she had on this wig, this blonde wig, and it didn't have no movement. Wigs back then didn't have no
They were
movement.
very stiff. Yeah.
Had on this blonde wig, and she had her makeup on, and she had her eyelashes on. She loved fire truck red lipstick, and she would put her red lipstick on, and had cooked her dishes. She cooked a pan, I'll just never forget it. She cooked a pan of macaroni and cheese, and she had a pan of cornbread. And she went to her club ladies meeting house, and when I walked in there, all of them was dressed up. They were dressed up, and they sat around, they ate, they collected dues, like monies for someone that maybe had a need at the table or in the club, like somebody who couldn't pay their rent or somebody who couldn't get groceries or they needed to buy their kids shoes. They collected monies at this club, and then they would talk about their week, their month, their husbands, whatever the case may be, and then they would end the night playing like a game of cards or spades or something. And then they would, at the end, after the spades, they would check off who's the next house that they're going to meet at. And I just remember that throughout my life of
Yeah.
her doing this. And it was just an amazing thing. I didn't understand it, but as I grew older, I thought they were building a sisterhood. And I remember them bringing in new, younger women who would come to the neighborhood
Mm.
and they would bring them in
Right,
and,
to introduce them to the
and
club.
introduce them, teaching them little things. And it was an amazing thing to see. A
It
very,
is. That is wonderful. All I'm thinking of now is like we have to do that. Like I love this idea of us dressing up and like coming
yes.
together. And there's a couple of things in that story. Like I love that they were coming together for really just the purpose of coming together,
Mhm.
right? So when you're bringing food and you're bringing family and you're just gathering, I think that is something that people don't really do for just the purpose of just coming together anymore, right? And
Mhm.
then also because they wanted to take care of each other, right?
Yes.
So there was something about coming together as women, taking care of each other as women, whether it was financially or whether it was spiritually or
Yes.
whether it was just sharing, right? Their experiences and knowing, oh, I'm not the only one that's like going through this. But then stepping into like their femininity with the dressing up and wearing the ball gowns and getting pretty and putting on their wigs and all of that stuff, and that is so beautiful. And I definitely know that there's some of that kind of here and there, like I'll read about like different groups that do tea or what have
Yes.
you,
Mhm.
but it to me now it seems more, I don't want to say forced, but it is, I guess, because I think we don't always see the need for these kinds of communities
And the
now.
consistency isn't there. It's just
Right.
there.
And also I think because before they felt the need, right? They were like, we have to stick together. We have to come together because of, all of the things that were happening in the world and the country and all of that stuff at the time,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
where we don't, I don't know, really feel it as much. And I know my great grandmom, I remember, she's from the South as well. And I just remember little Ma with her house coat on and her apron all the time.
And
And so
you
there was
you had
like,
a little mom, and mine was big mom.
yeah, I had a big mama too. But little Ma, she had one woman like across her street, kind of diagonally. That was Miss Brown, and she had another woman here. That was Miss Lou. Then she had another woman, Miss Minnie, like that was right across. And she would like step out on her porch and call Lou, Lou, and then she come out. Or she'd say, Manny, they come out. I'm like, and I was from the city, so I'm like, what is going on?
What's happening?
Yes, and just start shouting at people like this,
Yeah.
But she would do it. And they would come out, and sometimes they might come right like to the end of their little carport or whatever, and they'd be shouting across the street, or they would come together. And she also was big on the telephone. She was always talking,
Yeah.
hey, what's going on? She knew all that was happening with the community and with
Mhm.
the families in her neighborhood. So
Yes.
there was always that sense of staying connected
Mhm.
to what was going on as well.
Which
That I
is
think
so
has just
key.
really shifted a lot now.
Which is so key because I mean, I've been in my community for almost 13 years and I probably know 10% of the people in my community. And I know them in passing. There is no real true relationship. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
for instance, the relationships that we do have in this community, one of the relationships we had before we got here. And we had known this person when we was in the military almost 20 years ago.
Mm.
Moved into this neighborhood and they were here. Like we had no
Oh,
clue.
that's amazing. Mm-hmm.
And so we reconnected that relationship Another relationship we have in the neighborhood is because one of my grandjoys, her coach, her track coach, lives in the neighborhood, so we have that type of relationship. And then I have a neighbor across the street who she doesn't have any kids, so she kind of takes on our grandkids as like her god baby, so to speak. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like doing
Mm-hmm.
little things for them. But that's it. But this neighborhood almost have 100 houses in it in a cul-de-sac. And I literally don't have a relationship with probably only, like I said, I have a relationship with probably 10%. But it's not like the relationship I had in the South, where what I would see with my grandparents, how they knew each other. They would go in each other's house and help each other clean up their homes, or go help
Mm-hmm.
them pick green beans out of the backyard, or
Mm-hmm.
or she could call them and say, "Hey, can you watch?" If my grandmother had to go do something, because that's a whole nother story. My grandmother, the movie The Help, that was my grandmother. She was the help. So when she would leave to go to clean these houses, she would just send me across the street. Hey, go over there and stay with Miss Sally. She knows you coming. And like it was just community, it was connection, and it was out of necessity, because the necessity is not there as prevalent as it used to be. We are foregoing relationships, we are
Mm-hmm.
foregoing connections, and I speak that as I point to myself, because I have fallen prey to it as well. you know
Mm-hmm.
the necessity is not there. Our peace is so important. Our safe space is so important to protect. And we take it to a level where we are protecting it so much that we have lost connection. You
See,
know,
I would challenge that. I think that there is a need for this connection. I think people do want to have it, but they're afraid. I
Mm,
think that there's just more fear that has crept in these later generations than there was back then, where they're like, we need each other. We definitely need each other. And it didn't matter. Like, everybody was like an uncle, everyone was an aunt, everybody, even if they were just your friends,
yeah,
because of that need for having people to stick together. And I do think there is still the need, but maybe with just the growth of media and being able to see so much of what is happening in the world, people are afraid. So they're like, nope, I'm just going to stick with my little, my little family, my little nucleus, and maybe add one or two people that I trust into this. I'm not even going out to meet my neighbors. I don't know what they're doing over there, and it's not my business. I don't need those people. But I feel like that's not true. I think you absolutely still do need them, but we don't think that we do. And so when you don't think that you do because you are afraid or you're concerned that
yeah.
people are just going to harm or take advantage and that kind of stuff, there's just a lot more distrust, I think, and negativity and aggression in communities now than there used to be. And it could also be, too, because of how communities now are created. I feel like before, especially for Black communities,
Right.
we were kind of forced in certain areas to be
Yeah, of
together.
course. Of course.
So
I
when
agree
you're,
with that part.
right, so you're forced in certain areas to be together. So you don't have a whole lot of differentiation of different people that come in thinking, oh, we don't want to be a part of that. It's like, no, you part of this community, you part of this community. This is what we do around here,
What we
you
do.
know?
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
so I think some of it has changed just with how our communities now are, especially up here in like the Northeast. They're based on like the houses you can afford and the homes or the rent or whatever. And so you're going to get a lot of different mixes of ideas and attitudes, especially I think the higher you climb in some of these socioeconomic scales and things, where you have some people that is like, I didn't buy this house to be bothered by people.
Oh, okay. And I've heard that. I have definitely heard that. But do you think, I heard you say this to me a couple days ago, Kamisha? I heard you say that everything boils down to fear. Everything.
Yes.
When
Yes.
when we don't want to do anything, or we want to and we still shy back from it, we have all these excuses, but what it really boils down is to the fear.
Mm-hmm.
The fear
Mm-hmm.
of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd rather not even take the chance to build that tribe or get to know you than to get to know you and then get hurt or something happens. So my fear says, no, I'll just stay to myself. Yeah.
Right, right, because there's a form of protection there, right? And again, this is goes back to like the kind of community we want to build. Like we want women to feel like this is a safe space, right? This is a community where you don't have to be afraid to share who you are, like as a full person, who you are, what you're going through, what you've experienced, how you're still experiencing life, and how you're still learning and growing. And I do think that one of the challenges with building community is people are just not open to adding new people to their group, because either they're afraid or they feel like, oh, I have enough people. You know what I mean? I don't really need any more people. And I don't feel like that's what we're here for. I feel like God created all of us because we are supposed to be in community together.
But I do think though, Kamisha, and I'm going to challenge that a little bit, because I do feel like all of us are not vessels aligned. Like we have to find our spirit mates when we're looking for tribes, because we are not all in the same mindset. We're not all aligned in the same things that we believe or what we do. Not to exclude anyone, because that's not what I'm about, but I do want to be around people who have the same mindset, they're aligned, and they can challenge my mindset too a little bit. But if they're so far north or south outside of it, I think sometimes that causes a discord within the tribe.
Yes, and that's true. And there's different communities, right? So for example, you're talking about like your neighboring communities, and I've already said, like, you know, lots of times Black people, we were forced in community in certain areas. So you just got to know the people because of you know, proximity, and then, you know, like the necessity after that, I think, in many instances. But I'm like losing my thought. But when I'm talking about like when I'm talking about like living in community,
yes,
I still don't, I mean, I'm not saying that you have to be best friends with your neighbor. I'm not saying that you all have to go to each other's house and have all these like block parties. Remember block parties? Yes. Block parties and like community barbecues, if you are not feeling like there's like that kind of connection with that neighbor. But you all still have in common that you are living in this community together. You want the community to be safe. You want the children and families in that community to be safe, right? So there are still things you can come together around, is what I'm saying. Like, and there's different levels. Now that we're talking about it, I guess there's different levels of community and commitment to that community. But the fact that there's some people that are just never involved in any community, especially one where you are living and working, to me, that's not the way it's supposed to be.
I agree. I'll have to agree with that. Now, let me ask you a question. Have you ever considered joining a sorority of any sort? Are you part of a sorority? That's another form of connection, of a community, of a tribe,
and of a sisterhood. It absolutely is. And so I'll answer that question. But before I answer that question, let me share a definition of community. And once I share this definition of community, we can probably see where this where sororities fall in under this. All right, I was doing a little bit of research.
Let's go.
And trying to learn, you know, more about what is sisterhood. And so one definition was, sisterhood can be defined as an organization of women with a common interest or a congenial relationship. It can also be a powerful and meaningful way to share light and dark parts of one's journey, and to see.
I like that sentence. I love
that too, right?
I like that sentence.
I love that. And to see the best of oneself in another woman, right? Then there was another definition that said sisterhood can also be defined as a group of women who like meet regularly to offer support, to celebrate successes, to discuss one's goals.
Right.
And when I think about, and there's another powerful quote, we'll have to end with this, that Felicia Rashad said that I thought was really cool.
Oh, I love her. I saw I bet the quote you're talking about, I saw the session.
The clip.
Yes, I saw it. So anyway, keep going.
And so when I think of sororities, so, you know, we have in the Black community, we have a number of sororities. I think there's the Divine Nine. Okay, that includes the fraternities and the sororities. Yes. But I am not a member of a sorority, so I don't want to say how many are sororities. I think 5 of them are sororities. However, when I was because I did go to an HBCU, and as I like think about this definition of sisterhood, I don't know that it fell really like that sororities like fell into one of these kind of definitions really that I'm aligning with more. Like to me, when I learned about the sororities, you went to the interest meetings and learned, it was always about community work, right?
Outreach, community outreach.
Yes, coming together to do stuff for the community. And it wasn't really explained to me, or at least I didn't feel it, because also I didn't have people in my family, who were parts of sororities. Well, I had an aunt, but I didn't really understand what, she's not that much older, so I didn't really understand what was happening with her sorority at the time. And so it wasn't a place that I felt like I needed. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I thought, okay, it would be great, to come together with other Black women and to go and, fundraise for the community and help support different families and stuff. But also those were things that I was already doing as, a part of other organizations. And also there was this fee, right? So there's like a large fee that's involved with it. And there was just a lot of separation amongst the sororities, right? So whether you are a part of this sorority or whether you're a part of that sorority, like you need to look a certain way if you're in this one. Then the ones that are in this one look a certain way and have a certain attitude. And I'm like, it just didn't resonate with me. And also at the time I was in college and I was working, right? So I worked a lot my last couple of years of college, and I didn't have time for all of the like pledging and what have you. And because I didn't they didn't resonate with me in the way I thought that they would, I'm like, why would I spend this money and time joining?
You didn't feel like they would plug up whatever missing.
Yeah, I didn't feel that. And now as I look back on it, I think it's because I didn't have the proper understanding of the power of our Black sororities. I do now, and I've since been invited, to join graduate chapters and things like this, but I still have, not for any reason now, it's just, I just haven't done it. But at the time, I just didn't really understand also kind of the history and the power of Black sororities for our community in a way that would have resonated with me.
Yeah, well, on our next episode where we continue this conversation, we're going to have a guest, and she is a part of a sorority, and it would be great to get her cultural and experience and what she would say about being a part of a sorority and how it refers and stems back to the sisterhood that communities and tribes are looking for. So that's going to be great on our next episode. Now, for me, my story is a little different. My story, travels a path where a lot of women, Black women my age, have traveled, and where I didn't finish college until later in my life. So, graduated from high school, we was dirt poor, and I was not educated on whether I could even be a college student or not. It was like my grandparents raised me. They was much older. Between the two of them, I think they had a 6th grade education. I was like doing everything in the household for them, paying the bills, reading the letters, doing everything for them. So there wasn't a push for going to college.
So there wasn't. See, I would think that because they weren't educated, they would say you need to be educated.
No, not only was there not a push for college education, there was not a push for high school. For me to graduate high school, it was like, okay, hey, you're in the 10th grade, you're educated enough, go get a job and, help us pay these bills. Wow. Yes, help us pay these bills. So I really had to fight to, finish high school, like to prove to them that like I could work and help with the bills and help with the household and, do my studies and finish, high school, because I wanted to finish, you know what I mean? Right. So by 10th grade, I was already working and contributing to the household, sometimes forcefully contributing, it
was needed.
Yeah. So when I graduated from high school and all my friends, most of my friends was either going to college and doing these things, and I had no plan. There was nothing planned in my life after high
Mm.
school other than to work and continue to help pay the bills, you know.
Mm.
And so I remember being on a temporary job one day thinking, this is not the life I want. They have to release me. I have to do this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know a way out, So I ended
Mm.
up going to lunch one day, and behind this place where I was at lunch, there was a recruiting station, a military recruiting station. And I saw people going in and out. I saw people in uniforms going in and out, and it intrigued me. And so I cut my lunch short and I went over there and I spoke to them. And was my journey. That began my journey. And I ended
Mm.
up joining the military, and that was my way out.
That's so interesting that you say that, because I think we take for granted, I work with young people now, and I feel like we take for granted that they know. They know what they want to do, they know the opportunities that are available to them, they know the paths that they can take, and they just simply have to choose. And I don't feel like that's true for many students. Now, for many kids, yes, many kids that since they were 2, they wanted to be a firefighter, or they wanted to fly planes or something like this. But I also feel like there's a number of people like you, especially women, right? Especially listening to what you were saying about your grandma and the limited opportunities that she had and the work that was available to her. So she wasn't really able to say to you, Denise, these are things that you can do. You don't need to do the things that I've done. And these are the opportunities, right? Because when you have education and you know more, then you can share more and teach more. But because she did not really have that experience to share with you, you were kind of like, well, I know I don't want to do that, but what else is there, right, for me? And I think that still happens to this day,
Yes.
and that people don't realize that if you don't talk to the kids and you don't understand, and teach them and show them the different paths, if
I
you
don't
can't
know.
see it, you can't be it,
Because
right?
Yeah, because in her mind, remember, she had a sixth grade education. I was in 10th grade. So I've already surpassed her. So
Exactly.
I've already did her
Done
dream.
more than she's
Yeah.
expected.
Yeah, I've already did her dream. I've already did more than what she could have possibly thought of or imagined at the time.
Exactly.
Then
Mm-hmm.
when I decided to go into the military, I was underage because I graduated high school early. So I was underage. She had to sign a waiver for me to go into the military. And when she found out she had to sign it, we also found out that she didn't have custody of me. So she had to go to court, get custody of me so she can be able to sign for me to go into the military. And
Wow.
she fought it at first. She fought it at first because she didn't want to release me in that way. Because remember, I'm financially helping them with the bills. So I had to tell her, well, if I go in the military, I can send an allotment, a check back every month to help you guys with the bills. Because in their mind, remember, we were bred to strive. You know what I mean? To
Mm-hmm.
stay in that
Struggle.
struggle, and not to
Mm-hmm.
thrive. And so I ended up going to the military, went all through the military, got out of the military, met my husband who's in the military, and me and him started after a year or two of marriage, me and him started the college conversation because I said to him one day that I really want to go to college, and I don't even at that point, I didn't know how to start the process. I knew what I wanted, but I didn't know how to execute it. I didn't know how to start that process.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband had went to college. And so he's like, come on, let's do this. And my husband was the catalyst that helped me on my college journey. So
Mm-hmm.
I didn't end up getting my degree until years and years later, which most people didn't know. I was working and going to college and taking all these classes and courses and in these leadership classes all at the same time. You
Mm-hmm.
didn't know when I was in the diverse leadership, I was finishing my degree. So I was working, doing that 18-month course for leadership, and at night, stand up to 3 and 4 in the morning doing work to finish my degree.
Hmm.
So,
I feel
so
like
my
we are touching on a new topic for our show here.
But what I'm saying with that is because of that, the sorority part of me was never offered to me.
Oh, you kind of missed out on
I
it.
missed out on it. And I think that I would have taken the opportunity to join it because I needed that sisterhood. I
Yes.
needed it because of all the trauma
Yes.
and that I went through and all the darkness I was in. I needed some sisters, some
Yes.
positive sisters, and I missed it. I missed that opportunity.
Mm.
So
Well,
that's
you're never too late. They have these graduate chapters where you can still be a part of a Black sorority if someone invites
my
you. Just
co-host,
saying, I don't know if it's
my
something you're still.
co-host promoting sororities.
I don't still. Well, I'm just saying, there's this idea that we miss things. Like everything is gone. We've missed the boat on this. We've missed the boat on that. This is, you know what I mean? Like it's not always too late for things, right? Sometimes it might be, but it's a different form of what we're looking for. And not that we are creating a sorority here, but we are creating our own sisterhood here, right? Where we actually can do some of the things that I mentioned in that definition that you so lovingly appreciated.
Absolutely.
Where we are women who can come together in a powerful and a meaningful way and share the light and dark parts of our
Oh,
journey.
that sentence.
I love that, right? The light and dark parts of our journey. Also, have fun, right?
Yes.
I
Yes.
think sometimes at our age, we feel like, oh, everything is just such a chore, to go out, to get together, to get dressed up, you know what I mean? To do things. And I want this to be a community also where we are looking forward to coming together, where we're looking forward to meeting up with each other. We're looking forward to, sharing stories together and in person or even, online. Because to me, like fun and joy and happiness absolutely has to be a part of this community, along with, creating a space where people can feel like they can be themselves, right? I hate to use this word authenticity because it's everywhere, but be yourself, be who you are, share who you are, and not feel that you're going to be judged for that. Absolutely. And not feel that we're going to think you're like less of a woman or you're not as good as somebody else because of the experiences that you've had. And
some other women testimonies, like how many
yeah,
people, how many women of my age has had that same journey of trying to go to college while taking care of a family and doing other things and
exactly. That's why I was saying I think it's really another episode. Yeah.
And keeping it quiet so other people of their age who has degrees who working with you don't know that you don't have a degree. So this is this space that we're trying to build, and not just on a podcast platform, but in person, meeting in person, doing events, maybe doing some brunches, getting together to have just that moment, even if it's an hour or 2 hours, but in that 1 or 2 hours, we are rebuilding and reevaluating and what is the word when the churches used to reviving,
having a revival,
but it's needed. They may have turned it into something that was really about them and maybe collecting things, but I'm telling you, sometimes you need to reset.
Yes.
You want to build a community that for that moment you're able to reset and rearmor so you can go out and do what you have to do.
Right. Absolutely. And also really get back in like to who you are and have conversations that women don't have. You said something just a second ago about like the silence of your experience, right? You didn't share it with women and other people. Maybe you felt ashamed, maybe you felt embarrassed, maybe you felt like, oh, other women, have far surpassed me with education and I don't want them to know. And that's another thing I want us to really kind of move away from is this silence that women have. Yes. Of not talking about who we are in our experiences because we think that it brings some kind of negative light to us and who we are. when it doesn't. That can't be possible, right? Like it all creates who we are as women. And so I definitely want us to like break some of those silences, you know, come out of some of those hiding places that we as women have been forced into.
The invisible scars too, because sometimes those invisible scars puts you in that silent mode. You know what I mean?
Yes, because they are visible to you.
Yeah.
They may be invisible, right, to other people, but they're visible to you. And like you said, once you shine a light on it, then there is no more.
You gotta handle it now.
Yes, exactly. Bring it out of the dark. You know. Yes. So this is the community that we are looking to build here at Wisdom and Bloom, and we hope that we, you know, gain however many, because we talked about a tribe is small and mighty, or it can be large and powerful, but who want to join us to do these things, right? Want to actually continue at this age to pursue being our best selves, to pursue and grow and still know that there's a lot more that we have to give in this life.
Yep. Thank you, Kamisha. This was good.
You're welcome. You are so welcome.
I love it. Thank you for being a great co-host. Thank you for being a great friend, a great, you know, former colleague. And just to think, this relationship over this podcast started with a little video cup.
Yes, we have to share that story sometime of how we are here because of our cup. But thank you, Denise. Thank you so much for, you know, taking the time to talk with me today and share with the women out here what it is we're trying to create, our understanding of sisterhood, our definition of sisterhood. Oh, and I said I wanted to share, as we close out here, this quote from Felicia Rashad, where she said, "Where the women go, the culture goes." Yes. Is that the quote that you were talking about?
Yes.
Where the women go, the culture goes.
It's beautiful. And it's true. It's true. Where the women go, the culture go, where we can share our light and our dark parts of what's happening with us. I love it. Close us out, Kamisha.
Yes. So thank you so much. We have had a blast, and I know our listeners and viewers have had a blast with us too. So for all of you women, you know, our bloomers out there, we like to call you our bloomers. Keep blooming, and don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, share this episode with your tribe, right? Yes. With those people, right, that are a part of your circle, so that we can all, you know, come together as like-minded women, right? And thank you so much. Thank you so much today.